Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In this channel, I have created unboxing Python video series. In this series, I have created many videos explaining Python from basics to all the packages. This particular video is going to teach you about looping statements. The videos are made to make learning Python in an easier way. There are two types of looping statements available in Python. It is while else, for else. So in previous languages like C++, we have only while loop, repeat until or for loop. But here you can see that the else part is associated with while as well as with the for loop. We'll see the syntax now. Generally, this is the normal execution flow. It's a sequential one. All the statements are executed one after another. But sometimes we want to execute certain statements, maybe one or more statements, repeatedly based on some condition. So we have to go for a loop. Here you can see that the condition will be evaluated first, and then if it is true, the true block will be executed, and then again the condition will be checked. The true block will be executed as long as the condition is true. And once the condition becomes false, the false block is executed and the control will go to the next statement following the loop. Here only we have the else part. It is optional for while as well as the for loop. Whenever you talk about some block, you need to know about indentation. So indentation is leaving some spaces. Okay, so you have to increase the indent if it after an if statement or a for statement. Or in other words, if you want to start a new block, you have to increase the indent. You have to maintain that indent to indicate the scope of the block. That means all the statements in that block must have the same indentation. And you can reduce the indent back to the previous level to indicate that the block is getting over. So here the blank lines are ignored. They do not affect indentation. You can give comment in any way. Comments on a line by themselves are ignored with regard to indentation. So we have keeping on saying Python cares a lot about how far a line is indented. If you mix tabs and spaces, you will get an indentation error. So as I said, you have got two types of loop, while loop and for loop. While loop is used to repeat a statement or a group of statements while a condition is true. It tests the condition before executing the loop body. Whereas for loop executes a sequence of statements multiple times. So if you want to execute some statements many number of times, you can go for a for loop. If you want to execute a statement till a condition is true, you can go for a while loop. So this is the flowchart for a while loop. You are checking a condition, and if it is true, the conditional code is executed. Again the condition is verified. Once the condition is false, you go to the next statement following the while loop. Suppose you have a while else. Here you can see that as the condition becomes false, you have to execute the else code and then control goes to the statement following the while loop. This is the syntax. You have while, expression and a colon here. Colon is to mark the beginning of a block. Then you can have one or more statement here, and then you have an else followed by a colon and one or more statements. This else and these statements are optional. That means you can just have a while, expression, set of statements. In C, you have open curly braces and close curly braces to mark the block. But here we use an indentation. You can see that all the statements which belong to one block is uniformly indented. Similarly, the statements belonging to one group are also uniformly indented. So the expression will be evaluated to either true or false. And this loop body, one or more statements, will be executed repeatedly as long as this expression evaluates as true. These two statements or one or more statements given after the else colon will be executed when this expression evaluates to false. And once these statements are executed, control will go to the next statement following the while loop. These are two examples. We have got count is equal to 0 while count is less than 9 colon. There is no need for this open and close parenthesis as in C. Then you have got a print count is count, and then I'm incrementing the count and then I'm printing it. So starting with the 0 till less than 9, that means up to 8. These two statements will be executed. So the count will be printed, count is incremented. So count is equal to 0, it checks the condition, count is printed, count is incremented. Again count is verified, evaluated, it is less than 9, so control goes here. So these two statements will be executed till count is equal to 9. Once it becomes 9, control will come to the next line following that. So it will just print goodbye. Here we can see that while and else part. So the same thing here, it repeats till count is less than 5. Once count is equal to 5, else part will be executed. Here it says count is not less than 5. And after printing these things, you will have after a while this statement will be printed. These are the flowchart for and for else. Here you have an item from sequence. So we given for iterating variable in sequence statements. This is the syntax. So it will take one item from the sequence, execute the statement. It will take the next item from the sequence, execute the statement. And it will keep on executing the statement till there is no more item in the sequence. Once there is no more item in the sequence, control come to the next statement. Here for is used with the else code. The same thing for iterating variable in sequence statements, then you have got an else part here, it is missing here. So for each item in the sequence, these statements will be executed. Once it gets exhausted, the sequence get exhausted, else code will be printed and then control will go to the next statement. We'll see some examples of, this is the syntax. For variable in iterable, you have a set of statements, else colon set of statements. As in the while loop, this else and the else clause can be omitted. It is optional. So this is a variable. It takes item from the iterable one by one. Iterable is nothing but a collection of objects like tuple, list, string. This loop body will be executed for each item in the iterable. And once this iterable is exhausted, else class will be executed. After doing that, the next statement will be executed. You can see that all this block and this block, they are all uniformly indented. This is an example. For letter in Python. Python is an iterable, it's a string. So for each letter in this string, this statement will be executed. Similarly, there is a list here. For each fruit in the list, this statement will be executed. This is an example for a nested for along with a for with an else. So for num in range 10, 20, for I in range 2, num minus 1, if num mod I equal to 0, break. Else print num as prime. What happens here? We are trying to print prime numbers from 10 to 20. So it takes a value 10 and that num will be divided by 2 and take the remainder. So it is mod operator is nothing but a remainder after integer division. If the remainder after integer division by a number is equal to 0, that means it is evenly divisible. So if num mod 2 is equal to 0, then it is evenly divisible by 2, then it is not a prime number. So we are not continuing with that, we are giving a break. So that control goes to the next iteration. Once a number is not divisible by any other number from 2 to num minus 1, then else part will be executed. Here the num is prime will be printed. So this loop will be repeated from 10 to 19. And after completing that, the goodbye will be printed. You can also have a nested loops like this. We can nest while inside another while. Similarly, for with another for. You can also combine while and for. Any loops can be nested provided the statements must be properly indented. Which loop to choose? I have a while condition as well as a for condition, for loop. So in a while, the condition requires a Boolean condition to be specified. But here in for loop, we are focusing on the iterator. So if you have a Boolean expression to evaluate and not a list of elements to loop over, you can prefer while loop. If you know exactly the number of elements to be iterated over, you can go for a for loop. One thing we must know, when you specify a Boolean condition, either it must be a true or a false. What happens when I give a number 5? Will it be taken as a true value or a false value? So in the Boolean expression, all non-zero, not null, non-empty objects are treated as true. All zero values, null values and empty list, they are treated as a false. So with this video is complete. You can also go to the next video to learn Python in an interesting and easy way. Thanks for watching.